Okay, on to the next one.
Thanks.
Uh,
Okay, it was a great segue, Bjorn, when you were talking about making those connections to the stories. And throughout my career in education and the emphasis that we placed on coaching, the ability for educators and administrators to connect personally is just such an integral and profound way for people to navigate and pivot. So I appreciate the time and commitment that people have made to these 2.5 hours this morning or this afternoon or this evening. So I'm going to share a little bit of my story. And what I'm going to share with you is heavily informed by my journey with the cognitive clarity scan. So I'm going to start with my early years. When I recognized that as a young person, I became a chameleon and I could be anything that anybody needed me to be. I had a great sense of observation and learned the power of information, when to speak, when to imitate. And that served me very well through my career. And so I've since come to understand that that is a kind of code switching that a lot of women and marginalized people do professionally and personally um, to presence themselves in a positive way. So um, early on, I also observed in my family a very successful, career driven mother who was an educator and moved into politics. And the priority that she would have put on her career really left quite a profound influence on my own career trajectory, but also on the role that I played within my family. My father, who was also an educator and a professional, he assumed the role in the home of a very traditional, what we would have traditionally thought of as the female's job. And my mom's career was really quite successful. Um, and so I learned from her early on that external validation was where it was at. And so I want to just comment a little bit on some life events that I had. So I left home when I was 17, and a year later, I returned home with my first daughter. I completed my degree, my first degree, and I was holding down two jobs. I then got married at 25 and moved to Norway and then to England. I had two more children with my husband, and I was working part-time, full-time, while I completed two graduate degrees, a master's in counseling and a doctorate in education, leadership, and change management. I was driven. There was no time to be idle, and people were telling me, and I really connected here on this, that people were telling me I needed to do more. I had so much more capacity. You need to really seize this. So I wasn't idle, and I really wasn't spending any time with my family. My husband played professional hockey, so we were like ships in the night. He would be home at night during the day while I was working or studying, and vice versa. I would be home while he was playing hockey. So that life we had for about 10 years, and we just decided one day we were going to move home to Canada. And so I took a part-time counseling job in the local school system. And in 8 years, I became the director of curriculum implementation. I was confident, knowledgeable, and I was on a career trajectory that I felt was appropriate for what my skill set was, what I was bringing, my education level. You might sense a little bit of entitlement there. but it was a really, I was in a privileged position, and I got to lead several significant initiatives that were systemic, that touched 2,000 staff and over 20,000 students, and all of their families. So for the next 9 years, I was living the dream. Um, and then in 2019, I was appointed to an executive level directorship within the government. Um, and you all know what happened early in 2020. There were rumblings about this virus that was rampant. And on the heels of that, my sister passed away unexpectedly. And 3 days after she passed away, the world shut down. And as a leader in education, it was quite remarkable. And I'm sure anybody in health can attest to that as well. So it was an unprecedented time. I was dealing with a significant loss, trying to support my mom. And yeah, so I was really in the throes of a significant family and career professional, this bipolar experience, that I felt that I was really well equipped to deal with. I had an awesome team. Here we go. I'm going to park my emotional needs with regards to my sister, and I'm going to lead this education system through COVID-19. And I would have said at the time I was thriving. Um, People were coming to me, they needed me. I was giving them good counsel. I was reaching out to my counterparts across the country. And I thought it was really solid leadership. It was 24/7 for about 18 months. And then the memory loss started. And it shattered my world. I was trying to reach out to people to strategize. I had a very close circle who were covering for me, and none of it helped. And so I took a leave of absence. And then the Band-Aids came. The medication, prescribed medication, the counseling, the meditation, the self-help groups, the webinars, the podcasts. I just couldn't get back to this confident, articulate person that was, in this high responsibility position. And I couldn't stand to be anything less than that person. So I walked away. And it was the hardest thing I could have done, but I needed to do it because it was my self-preservation. So then we've got a new chapter. And what's that going to look like? So I did a lot of soul searching, coaching, counseling. I updated my CV and my LinkedIn profile, and I was exploring different options. I pursued some formal coaching programs, and there just didn't seem to be a really good fit. And then I saw Bjorn's post. And so I was delighted when he invited me to speak with him. At the time, the scan and having access to the scan changed my life. And seeing the power that the tool, because I'm an assessment person, I believe in data, starting the conversation with data. And I said earlier, it was serendipitous for me to come to brain health analytics and the cognitive clarity scan. So I did the work on the unrelenting standards and the self-sacrifice. And we've all, touched on unrelenting standards. I hear you. I connect with you on that. The self-sacrifice for me wasn't doing for others. It was abandoning myself. I gave up all of my interests. People said, "Oh my gosh, used to be beautiful in making clothes." I was a master tailor and designer as something that I did on the side, and yet I gave it all of it up, because somebody was asking me to do more in my job, and I was rising to what they were expecting me to do. So in 4 months, I worked hard. I worked really hard for 4 hours a day on brain health analytics and the cognitive clarity scan. And over that period of time, I gained the insights that I'm sharing with you today, and the strategies. I set boundaries. I have found a new love in watercolor painting, and I'm good at it. Who knew? So I have a new alignment. And Björn, I'm so grateful that you have brought us to this point and that I'm along on this journey. I do believe I'm me. I'm a better version of me. I've let go of the chase. In some ways, I've set those boundaries, and I believe that together we are making a meaningful contribution. So here's to the beautiful next chapter. And thank you all so much.